White Day: A Labyrinth named School is a first-person survival horror game where you play as a new student in a school with a dark past that sneaks into the grounds at night to deliver a diary to a girl he's interested in. The game is available on Steam, PlayStation and Xbox consoles, and Nintendo Switch. Atmosphere. Shortly after arriving, the shutter locks behind you and you witness a student being clubbed to the ground by one of the janitors, which sets the tone quickly. There's something horribly wrong with the school, with the vague feeling of the paranormal and the brutality of the night watch. The school at night has an electric feel, a sort of unrest, and the thing that keeps the atmosphere tense is the near constant presence of the janitors, which lurk in areas around the school and are very perceptive as enemies. They'll investigate areas they think are suspicious, coming over to check if a light is left on in the classroom or if they hear you making noises. They'll also, more surprisingly, come looking for you if they see you through a hallway window from another part of the school, causing you to duck and hide even if you don't know where they are. The janitors are always on your tail, which can be both a pro and a con. Whilst hiding from them and crawling around behind tables to avoid being seen can be really tense, based on your luck and proficiency with staying stealthy, it can also get tiring to spend a lot of time hiding from them, as creeping around in dark classrooms waiting for them to leave doesn't stay tense forever. The game also uses a light mechanic, meaning that you need to turn lights on or use a lighter to see items in dark rooms, which can also alert the janitors, which is a fun trade-off. This usually works pretty well, but it's confounding when a giant room-sized enemy can't be seen without the lighter. It's a little strange, but mostly a beneficial mechanic. Without the janitors, the corridors of the school can still be vaguely spooky on their own, especially at the start with the dusty wooden floorboards and the eerie whispering wind that fills your ears. The game also has a ton of various folklore tales and history to the rooms, which adds a lot to it as well. The atmosphere consists of just some spooky corridors and a persistent enemy, but it's more than enough to keep it going, though sometimes the hiding can get a bit tedious. That's one Harry Mason. Scares. There are a lot of randomly playing sound effects that can catch you by surprise. Most are just startling, but some sounds can lure you to another one, almost completely at random. Obviously this has pros and cons, and some can be totally ignored, but when they catch you off guard it can be pretty startling. The real fear is supposed to come from the paranormal entities and the janitors. In the long run, hiding from the janitors can end up losing its edge, as their perceptiveness can lead to extended periods of hiding and eventually make hiding from them feel a chore. The paranormal entities do range from being showcase pieces that are impressive but not very frightening, to randomly spawning ghosts that float towards you and that result in a fairly intense jump scare. These of course range, and some didn't get their chance to interact much at all, but they are at least interesting and varied, with moments like the rooftop swimming pool ghost being really intense, as well as some of the random jump scares you can get throughout the game. Its effectiveness will vary, but it tries enough things that it'll eventually get you. That's 2 Harry Masons. Sound design. There's a constant shifting presence in the halls of the school, with the random sound effects of things banging and creaking, opening and closing, and a general sense of unrest being part of the environment around you. It's like you're not alone, but following any of these sounds, their source reveals nothing, like you imagined it. The game's ambient music layers just over this as, again, it's a shifting, undulating, whispery tone, barely perceptible as you creep along the hallways, a gust of wind or a groan that slithers up the corridors. The real music tends to kick in randomly with plucking instruments and vocal wailing that combines to raise the intensity. Along with dealing with the boss fight music, there's several intense pieces throughout the game, heavy on drums and eerie tones. The game's got voice acting for a few characters you meet, and most of it is really, really good.
It's a good thing we're here together, though. This school is so old. It's always scary in here, but tonight I think it's even worse. They say many people committed suicide here. Apparently it was at its worst when the school was new.
The directional audio works really well and the reverb is immersive enough. The sound design has a fun few quirks and ends up being pretty important to the atmosphere. That's 3 Harry Masons. Gore. There's very little to no gore in the game that I saw whilst playing, but the game's scenario didn't really seem to need any either. That's 4 Harry Masons. Story. You play as a new transfer student who sneaks into his school at night to return a diary to a girl he's interested in, along with a gift. After arriving at the school, it's apparent that this is not a great idea and there's something extremely wrong going on after hours. There's a lot of interactions with 2 other girls that sneak around the school at night, with your choices affecting the ending of the game you get, along with several other things as well. Some of them are romantically angled, which feels a little odd based on the situation that they're all in, and also some of the endings don't quite explain what happens to other characters after you walk away, with the game ending being a bit abrupt. Some other endings and New Game Plus modes also allow the game to continue onwards a lot longer than I was able to get from a single playthrough, so the game at least rewards returning players. But what makes the bulk of the story is the overwhelming amount of notes, essays, and diary entries you can find laying around that explain the nature of some ghosts to the school's history, and lots of other lore, and fleshes out the Korean folklore and its unique ghosts and ghouls. There's a deep past to the school, and 90% of it is told through notes, which can be a little tiring and become a chore to read, even if most of it is written pretty well. Story on its own is hard to decipher without the notes, however, to give it context to events and why certain things are even happening, so there's a lot of confusion that can arise with that as well. Depending on your choices of both dialogue options and how much you read, the story can range pretty wildly, though most of it was fairly interesting regardless of how much of it you ended up consuming. Making the final score 5 out of 5 Harry Masons. White Day certainly had some flaws, but tried a lot of different things that eventually resulted in the game doing well. I won't pretend there weren't points where I wandered off whilst hiding since the janitors took so long to leave an area, but that's probably the game's greatest flaw for me personally. It was still a strange and unique game with a few mechanics that worked really, really well. Again, I'd like to remind you the whole thing is down to my opinion in horror games. If you don't share this opinion, then that's cool, I get it. I'd like to point out that I will not be visiting the school after dark and advise you don't either. There will be more horror reviews in the pipeline, and thanks for watching. Always go check out Bumps in the middle of the night. Peace.